What's up, brothers? Cobra Corner here. Welcome back to the Cobra Corner. My name's Will Habel. Today I'm alongside JT Colapicho and David Mack. I must ask David, what is today?
It's Tuesday.
On this week's episode, we got some special teams, special plays, special players. We'll be sitting down with Eugene Galloway of Coker Track and Field, as well as Tom Simpson, head coach of Coker University Tennis. We'll talk about all the ins and outs of their programs, as well as a background on these two outstanding head coaches. So sit back as we unpack the latest and greatest updates from Coker University Athletics.
We really will.
All right, all jokes aside, we're going to start with the weekly roundup, and David's going to take us through it. Let's go.
All right, so first, with both the tennis teams, men's tennis defeated Newberry 4-3, holding off the comeback. They were up 3-0. Newberry came back, tied at 3-3, and then Carlos Fernando now won a 3-setter to win it for the team and all but clinch a spot in the SAC quarterfinals. Also, they defeated Emory and Henry 6-1 on Saturday for Senior Day, while the women also defeated Emory and Henry 6-1 on Saturday for Senior Day. So shout out the four seniors from Coker Tennis, Catherine Matthews, Sydney Foster, Angelina Krieg, and Tebow. Thank you for all you've done for the program. And then all on to men's golf. They placed 7th in an extremely competitive field at the Argonaut Invitational in Pensacola, Florida. JT out to softball.
Back out to the diamond with softball. Went ahead, was able to take game 2 on Wednesday, April 10th against Newberry, 5-3 in that one. Ari Fair, 4-for-4 for herself in that game. She was actually a home run away from the cycle. Well, she went 4-for-4, as I said before, 1 RBI, 2 runs. Kelsey Scott also 2-for-4 on the afternoon and had a stolen base. And Kelsey Golly again, also 2-for-3 with 2 RBIs for Coker women's softball. So we're going to go ahead and shift out back inside to Acro, who, big week for them.
Yeah, big week for them. Last week was pretty big too, as they went to the Conference Carolinas tournament up in Tennessee. They lost on a heartbreaker, however, 255.115 to 255.3202 to Lander University. And then, however, though, they did qualify for the Nationals for the 3rd straight year in the synchronized open pyramid. Those girls will head up to Fairmount, West Virginia to compete in that. That will be televised on ESPN Plus on April 28th. And then outside to the Diamond, the baseball won the series against Mars Hill up in the mountains. They took game 1 and then in that game, they had 2 homers from Ixarino and Donovan Freyer. And then Coker held Mars Hill's late rally to take the game. And then they pulled out the 9-8 win in a thriller in game 3 when Hunter Poole contributed 2 RBIs on the day, while Mueller hit 3 hits as well. And then Cooper Thomas stood tall on the mound, only allowing 1 run while pitching 6.1 innings. And then baseball holds the 2nd place in the SAC standings with series against 1st place Catawba and 4th place Carson Newman. So best of luck to those boys as they try to wrap up the year and push for a SAC title. All right, in this week's Coach's Corner segment, we have a special guest today, head coach Eugene Galloway of Coker University Track and Field. Coach, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks. Appreciate you guys for having me.
So just first off, give a little introduce yourself to viewers and listeners.
Wow. Where do we start? As far as kind of my journey and stuff, been here for 10 months now. It's been great being here in Hartsville and in the Hartsville community here at Coker University. But started off born and raised in Winston-Salem. So big North Carolina guy, big basketball guy. Duke Blue Devil. I do believe Duke, so there you go.
Oh, man. I was hoping I was going to get NC State in there.
Man, last week.
No. But NC State's not really, I wouldn't hold them up as far as a rival.
More Carolina.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, it's either them and Kentucky, and it's like
Fair
everybody
enough.
else just kind of to the wayside. So there's that. But no, I actually I was a big basketball guy before I got introduced to track my junior year in high school, and went to High Point University. Was a triple jumper and also a sprinter out there. Then kind of my coaching journey and stuff like that, it was kind of weird because it started off being a personal trainer. And then 8 years later, got married, and my wife gave me the green light to pursue coaching. And so I was at Roanoke College in Virginia for 9 years. For 8 years. And then we had a really good, successful time there. And I thought, hey, this opportunity popped up, and my wife wanted to move a little bit closer to family, which her family is from the Charlotte area, and then she has extended family actually that live here in Darlington, Florence, in Hartsville area. And so, I said, hey, this is the goal. So let's give it a shot, and now we're here. So yeah.
That's cool how it all worked out.
Yeah.
Charlotte's not too far. I'm from Charlotte, so I can vouch for that. Drive's not too bad. But next thing we're going to touch on is just, how track's going this year.
Yeah. It's actually going much faster than what I originally thought. I mean, first coming in here, obviously didn't have a staff. Roster size was very low. And so as a coach coming in, especially for coming from D3 to D2, you're having to learn new rules and all that stuff. And shout out to any coaches that want to pursue the college athletics ranks. Please know your NCAA rules, because those things do help big time, and get to know your compliance director. Shout out to Julia.
The best in the biz, Julie Rowland.
For sure.
There you go. There you
She's
go.
going to be happy we shout her out. First time we've shout her out in
I know.
10, 11 episodes.
I know. She deserves it. She deserves it.
Yep. So yeah, she saved all of us from a lot of things. But as far as kind of the team and stuff, bringing in the staff was the first goal, and then the other goal was, hey, what can we do? When you look at a institution, you look at their school records and you kind of say, okay, based on our roster, what's the first thing we can do to kind of really promote ourselves and get ourselves out there? And I know in the sprints, that's kind of a big thing down here in South Carolina. Back with my background in sprints and jumps, I thought, hey, there's a couple of school records we could actually attack. And so we've been able to do that, have some success on that side big time. But the ironic part about that is, with the help of Coach Dawkins and Coach Baker, we've actually, out of all the athletes that have competed for us, I would say all but one have had lifetime best in all their events, which is very ironic on a track and field or cross country team. So again, I always say I'm only as good as the help that's around me. And so that's a big thing, and that's why I say the season's going very, very well because of that planned help. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna touch on that, because whenever we do, every week we'll do the weekly recap, and then it seems like every week we're looking at track, cross country, track and field. Somebody broke a record.
Top 3 broke a record.
Yeah, it's been cool to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking on, you mentioned the transition from being a coach at the Division III level to the Division II level, and then building a program as well. So how has been adjusting to, because in Division III there's no athletic scholarships. So how has just touch a little bit on the recruiting aspect, the difference of trying to recruit athletes versus no athletic scholarships and athletic scholarships.
Well, I guess a big help for me before I got into college athletics was being able to run my own business as a personal trainer, and I was an HR coordinator. It was kind of my other side job as well. So like having that business sense, learning the way to balance a budget, and trying to figure out how to do that really helped me out, especially when coming to at first D3. And in Division III, really the biggest thing is, recruiting. And you have to build a program like that. That was literally what we did at Roanoke. And as the team got bigger, obviously the budget and stuff got bigger, and you just kind of allocate for that. Now, when you go to Division II, you have to learn some rules, especially with the recruiting side of things, knowing when and who you can offer, and then also too the GPA piece comes into a really big play in the eligibility center. So that's been a big transition for me as well. Having scholarships, I'm going to tell you right now, it's like a gift and curse as well, because the good part is you can help somebody out that may not have had the funds to go to a college or university by giving them either a partial or sometimes a full ride. But on the bad side of things, there's so many talented student athletes out there. So it's almost like you have to pick kind of based on what's a good fit for you, and that's vice versa with the student athlete. It has to be a good fit for them too. So that's been a challenge. So I'll probably say that those would be the biggest transitions, is just learning the rules and also seeing, hey, we have a big pool, but we have to make sure it's a good fit for us still.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the one thing that, I can attest from, because, I came from track and field. I came from Division III track and field and everything like that as well. Competition-wise, virtually, we look at the schedule and everything like that, like, especially when it comes to college and everything, you're facing, it's not just Division III or just Division II when you go to meets and everything like that. You'll see D1, D2, D3 and everything like that. So I got to assume, like, preparation-wise, before you get to, like, championship meets and everything, having these guys see these Division I, Division II guys and getting those first, second, or thirds or top tens is got to be a confidence boost in and amongst itself, because it's like, man, you just beat somebody from Duke, or you just beat somebody from,
Yeah, the one meet was when Yazier first broke the record. It was like East Carolina was there, and there was some other D1. Elon, I think, may have been there. So, yeah, that's got to be huge.
Yeah, the funny part about track is from the general public, when you're looking at the sport, you're like, man, like this person from, let's just say there's a guy from West Texas right now, West Texas A&M, that's D2, and he's running a 990, and in the 100-meter dash, well, a 9.9 in the 100, that's beating basically almost everybody in Division I, Division II, and some pros. And so the great part about our sport is like we talked about is, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what school you go to. It's really about a fit. It really is like, does the student athlete like the school? Do they like, the professors? And can that person help them out in that realm? And then the other part is, do they trust the coach? If they trust the coach in the program, I'm telling you, a lot of good things will happen in random places like Coker or West Texas A&M, or like right now in our conference, Wingate, we won the cross country D2 national championships. Like, you just don't know, like, these programs just coming out of the woodworks with all these special talents, but really what helps out is a foundation with the program between the coaches and also the institution. So, but yeah, I will tell you, I'm not gonna lie, it's good going into a 100-meter dash final and you see USC, Florida, Georgia, Wingate's a powerhouse, Carson Newman's another powerhouse in our conference, the Dukes of the world. It's good. It's good to have that feeling. So I'm not gonna not put it to the side to say it's not. So,
yeah, I'm sure that has to be a little bit of a boost to even be competing next to those guys. I'm sure that for any high level athlete, that should boost them to think, oh, I'm up there with these guys, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to attack these guys and I can beat them.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, going into the season, you mentioned about the season coming in, confidence was very low amongst our student athletes, and I understand. Last year, looking at what the team did, I think on the men's side, we only scored like 2 points in our conference meet. I think we scored 1 actually in our outdoor meet and 2 in the indoor meet. And then our women's team, I think they scored 19. So overall, coming in, the confidence was low. Then you got a new coach coming in, a staff, which they were excited about having a staff, but it's like, wow, like what's this guy expecting us to do? And they've had some turnover, and so from day one, I've always preached about communication and accountability, and that starts with me as the head coach. And if I'm honest with them and let them know, hey, this is where we're at as a program and as a team, then that kind of really softens their safety net, softens like them from having to not tell the truth or having to be concerned about, hey, does this coach really have my best interests at heart? and if I tell them the truth, then they'll be like, oh man, well actually, if he's being vulnerable, I guess I can let down my guard a little bit. So it helps out. It's a big deal for me.
So you talked about with the large talent pool in the recruiting aspect of things, and you said that we kind of have to narrow things down and really take a look at the athletes that fit and things like that. So what are some things that as a head coach you look for in those athletes?
First thing is we always talk about is academics and grades. A lot of times in sports and athletics, I know we're in this transfer portal age where everybody's kind of moving and jumping if they, if the coach even like breathes their way wrong, which I understand. I get it. You have that right, especially for the one-time transfer rule. But on the flip side of things, I have to think, well, this may be a project. Okay? So, like, for example, I'll just stay in the sprint world. For example, you have a young lady that's about a 13-second 100-meter dash runner. Well, in our conference, you need to run somewhere around 12 flat to even be considered in the top 15. Okay? Mm-hmm. So then the question becomes, well, academically, how good is this person in class? And usually if I can have the time with that person for at least a year 2 is going to be really good because now you're acclimated to a college program, kind of the ins and outs. So that's the first thing that I look for. And then the second thing is, when talking to the coaches, their high school coaches, I'll ask them, hey, look, what type of person are they? Mm-hmm. I do want different personalities, though. I don't want everybody to be leaders. I need some people need to be followers. Some people need to be followers, meaning people that can listen.
Yeah.
I will need some people that are headstrong because that helps out too. Because that allows some of the other athletes to be like, oh, well, this person's confident enough to talk to the coach, and I can do it. So just having those dynamics, and I usually talk to our coaching staff about, hey, this is how many I need this personality, that personality, and having the different personalities actually help out with the unity of the team. You can't have a bunch of leaders because then all of a sudden, there's got to be some Indians. You can't have it all Chiefs. So.
So you talked about when you go to recruiting, like you're looking for projects, people who aren't not exactly like at that level yet, but you think you can get them there. So just wanted to for you to just touch on your training schedule, like what you do to develop these athletes and what you think they can be.
Yeah, so we go with a really balanced approach when it comes to training. Golden rule is practices don't last longer than 2.5 hours. And we usually go preseason 5 days out the week with a break in the middle, which is usually on either Wednesday or Thursdays. But since we're in season, it's a lot more breaks because obviously you want them to be primed and ready to go for meet. So we usually have Wednesdays off. But I mean that's really the schedule. And then as far as kind of what I always preach to the kids is that every day's a theme.
Yeah.
So we don't. So I'll tell you our themes. So Monday we call them Acceleration Mondays because basically we're learning, starting, we're getting out, and that theme of acceleration also can be to different aspects of our workouts, such as there will be a lift day after that, but plyometrics, and also we do shot put throws as well, or multi throws as they call it. But Tuesday we call it, everybody, our sprinters know this, they call it Tempo Tuesday. Yep, that's where the sprinters or jumpers, they hate those days the most because that means you're going to be doing some running or a lot more run than you're used to. Wednesdays is either, if we're doing preseason, Wednesdays will be jump Wednesdays, and that's when we do a lot of plyometric work, a lot of what we call ballistic off the ground work to try to work on reaction. And then Thursdays is, hey, let's take a seat Thursdays or take a seat Wednesdays. That means basically we're gonna be off, and you can catch up on your schoolwork or go to the trainers, do what you got to do. Thursday is general Thursdays, so basically very generic day, technique day. Friday, we call it Resistant Fridays. And that is basically what it is. Anything with resistance, we're going to be doing. So it's a high intensity day. And then Saturday, we call it Empty the Tank. And that's when we do our Tempo 2 day, if we're in preseason. So again, it's a pretty balanced way of going about things, about our practices, and then our athletes know that, hey, there's actually an objective to every day in which we're training. So, yeah.
Now, the one thing I do want to mention, and we were kind of talking about this before the show and everything like that, and the one thing that I find very interesting about track and field and cross country is that, to my knowledge, it's the only sport that really competes from September to May, in a sense, and everything like that. There is no quote unquote off month where you could be competing. And because even with November, even transition season and for those who don't know what transition season, it's literally going from cross country to track and everything like that. What is it sort of like just knowing that, you get this team from September to May and everything like that, and it's a case of the only time that you're not training with them, in a sense, is over summer break, in a sense, and during winter break as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can actually date it all the way back to probably July. The beginning of July is when cross country really gets started up. Again, it's just having that balance, knowing when you lay out a schedule with your coaches and say, hey, these are the weeks that we need to have either a week or a week and a half off with the transition. Because again, it is a long season, it's a grind. And even within the season too, trying to find a day or two here to just give the student athletes a break, because just like us as adults, we all need breaks, and we all need to sometimes just kick back. So that's kind of what we do as a staff. We start in June. We sit down and go over the yearly calendar, and then I tell my coaches, hey, you got to find at least 2 moments where there's a week off. We're not doing anything with our kids, and it's in the past it's really worked out very well with the lack of injuries, and then you think about the mental aspect of our sport that helps out big time. And
the mental aspect for track and field, well, the one thing that again I can attest for is one of those things where it's one of those things where you'll hop into a meet one week and everything like that, and it's like you'll feel amazing and everything like that, and then the next week it's a case of you could go to Penn relays or something like that, and it's like your first thought is, wow, we have about 300 teams here. This is a lot. All right, so just gonna touch on what it's like, just having that mental aspect, and what the mental game is sort of for track and field and everything like that.
It helps to have people that have been there and done that, meaning being in the big moments, experiencing those moments. Because I'm telling you right now, there are coaches who they learn the craft as they go, and I'm not saying that they're not good coaches. I actually think they're really good because they have to learn it from scratch. But there's something about having a coach, or even just administrators that have been there and done that in big moments. And that way, whenever a student athlete is coming to you and be like, hey, coach, I'm really nervous, I have a saying to all our kids when they say they're really nervous. I'm like, good, I'm glad you are. That means you care. Mm-hmm. Now, here it goes. Now execute what you got to do, and honestly, don't be outside yourself. And yes, does that come with a loss? Sometimes it does, and that's fine. I guess from my experience being a student athlete and also being a coach and coaching at the highest levels as far as NCAA championships, just being the same, especially as a leader, being the same and just instilling that confidence and knowing that, hey, no matter what, if you do your job, I'm big on Bill Belichick. If you do your job, everything's going to be all right, win, lose, or draw. And as a coach, I have to be okay with that. And if I'm okay with that, then the student athletes, I know they want to win, or they want to, PR, do what they need to do in a big moment. But my job is to at least get them to that mindset, and that's what I usually do. I'll just sit them down and be like, hey, look, you know what you got to do. Just get it done. Be nervous, be excited, but execute your plan. And usually that's worked out a lot of times. So yeah.
So transitioning from more of the on the track things to off the track, you talked about how you support your athletes through the mental and physical things with the training and supporting them mentally. What are some things that you guys do as a team to support athletes academically, because at the end of the day, it is student athlete, and we're here to get a degree. So
shout out to my graduate assistant, Michael Dawkins, because you are really the spearhead of this. With all our freshmen incoming new guys, I did have a rule this year: 5 hours of not community service, 5 hours of study hall, in which he and Mr. Aaron Beebs, they coordinate that with all of our incoming freshmen and also people too who are under a 3.0. My rule is if you got a 3.0 or higher, you're out. If you're under that, sorry, you got to stay there.
Yeah.
You know. And so usually, again, they're supposed to go to the library. They sign up, and then also too, with us having subject tutoring and also the writing service as well, that it counts towards their hours. So that has helped out tremendously. I mean, I know our women's GPA was I know it had to be over 3.5 this past
awesome.
semester. Our men, we're at 2.9. We got to get our stuff together. So there's that. But that's a goal. That's actually one of our 4 main goals. One of the number one goal is having a 3.15 GPA as a team. That counts you as an academic All-American. So that's our number one goal, and then our number 2 goal is everybody PRs. So so that's how big academics are as far as our program and kind of where we're trying to go.
yeah, and then also something that's off the court. You mentioned it a teeny bit there with the community service aspect with Coker. So this fall we were the number 1 in Division II for service hours. So being a part of a university like that that's so committed to the community outreach here in Hartsville and in the surrounding communities, what are some of the favorite things that you have done with your team to help out the community?
I mean, the best thing was during what was it? It was a Halloween. Was it Halloween time when we had the whole community come out in Main Street, and obviously like the soccer team, they were doing their goal thing in the middle of the street, and then we were handing out candy. But I thought, honestly, this is the first time I've been a part of a program in which all of the sports teams do something in hand as far as community service. So I know at Roanoke, we would go to the soup kitchen, and then we also too we would do stuff with Southwest Foods and package meals and stuff for less fortunate families. So that was something that I knew coming in, hey, let me try to figure out something. But just the engagement with, again, Halloween and how that all went, I thought that was by far the funnest event we've done. I know there was a pumpkin patch that was done as well, and I thought that was pretty cool. And remember, most of our kids, again, they've had some turnover with the coaches. They've never really experienced community service, so that was kind of one of the things that really I felt good about. Hey, we're actually now trying to put our name out there. And they, at first they were like, "Coach, man, come on, community service." And my question becomes, so what have you done in years past to help out the community? All these other teams are doing it. And then they went out, they came out, and they were like, "You know what, Coach, this was actually pretty cool." Yeah. So that's what I want to start doing even more. I want to do more of that, especially next semester. I know cross country is going to be a little bit hard to integrate them, but with track, we can get that done the first semester.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to wrap things up, is there anything else you want the audience to know about you or your program?
Well, hey, look, we have a lot of things going on, a lot of new changes, new uniforms, so that's a big thing because everybody likes new gear and new things.
Gotta be drippy out there.
Gotta be drippy, I don't like going to places and I'm looking like crazy. I think when I first got here as the coach, they were asking me, what's the first thing that you would change? And I said, the uniforms. And why? Well, we need to have Coker in front of the shirt. Yeah. That way, whenever, we our student athletes are going out there, they can see that, there's some representation from Coker University instead of, I like our mascot a lot, but it needs to have the name on it, okay? But, no, we got a big meet coming up this Saturday. We're going to be at USC. So it's a really good opportunity for some of our student athletes to get some good marks in before our conference championship, which will be on May 2nd and 3rd, and that'll be at University of Lenoir-Rhyne. Yeah, Lenoir-Rhyne University. So hopefully the guys can do what they got to do. We are going to run a 4x1 relay. So that's going to be kind of exciting. I'm really kind of chomping at the bit to see how that goes. And then our women's team, Mariah Meacham, she's already had a really good start to the year. And I feel like with her and I hate to say Jail might not be ready to go, but with her and Jade, they're going to be pretty much ready to go for us in the triple, and also Mariah in the 400. So yeah.
Okay, well, sounds like you got yourself a hands full of events coming up.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, best of luck in those. Appreciate you coming on the show today.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, another segment of this week's Coach's Corner. We have Tom Simpson, head coach of Coker Tennis. Coach, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So just give the viewers and listeners a little insight about yourself and a little background.
Okay. I've been involved in tennis since I was about 10 years old. Played as a junior, ended up, did well, got recruited, played at Oakland University. Our team made it to the NCAA's tournament. So we won our conference, and ended up right after in college, I became the tennis director at the Danville Tennis Club in Danville, Illinois, an indoor-outdoor club with 10 courts. Shortly after there, one of my clients from Danville had a condo down in Hilton Head, and they were looking for a tennis director. So I went down and suit and tie on. I went into the interview, and the guy just laughed at me, and he says, "Tom, the only time you wear a suit and tie on Hilton Head is weddings and funerals, and you only wear it at a funeral if you're the guest of honor." And so I ended up, took the tie off right away, and I knew I found a home. We were on Hilton Head for about 25 years, working at Port Royal Racket Club, and then for 12 years with the Smith Stearns Tennis Academy down in Sea Pines. From there, the last thing in tennis that I hadn't done was in coach college. So I was sending kids off to all kinds of different universities. My last private lesson with them was with a girl that played at UCLA. So I got the opportunity to come to Coker, and I've been coaching now. This is my 12th year at Coker.
Wow. So you've been around the block, to say the least, in the tennis world, getting a lot of different angles. So I guess how does the different experiences that you've had at all those different levels help you in your college coaching?
Well, I think one of the things I add is that, and by being an elite USPTA teaching pro, and I understand the breakdown of the strokes. And so I actually offer each of our players 2 hours of private lessons a week. Wow. So we get to do individual and lessons with them. At the same time, I think my working with Smith Stearns Tennis Academy and then the Bishop Gates Tennis Academy down in Florida, I run our practices very much like at an academy. So we have a different drill on each court of our 6 courts. So every 15 minutes we rotate courts, and so the players in a group setting get to see a little bit of everything every day.
Okay. Yeah, that's got to be great to see from them. Somebody with so much experience in that area and running these clinics and lessons and whatever it may be with very high level people. I bet that entices players to come into Coker and play underneath you in that program. So I guess a little bit of a piggyback off of that. I know that in tennis, to be successful at this level, you really have to recruit the international scene very well. So just talk a little bit about the recruiting aspect of things, how challenging or easy or whatever it may be it's been from maybe when you first started to now, the differences and stuff like that.
Yeah, you hit it on the head when you said in the international and aspect of it all. When I played, we played down at Southern Miss had an invitational, and I walked into a Pizza Hut and somebody yelled out my name, and it was a guy from Tulane. He was the only American on Tulane's team. That was the only team that we ever came across back in the late 70s that had all internationals. Nowadays, you're looking at every team in the SAC conference, and actually across the board is looking at least half, if not 100% international on every team. So in trying to recruit the internationals, you do a lot of and work on watching videos, and then the WhatsApp calls forever, and let alone the emails that go back and forth.
Yeah, so I guess with recruiting the international scene, you get a lot of different cultures, a lot of different personalities and people in your programs. For instance, your men's team, I don't think there's a single American on the team, is there?
First time ever that we've had 100% international.
Yeah, which I think that can be a really cool thing as well. And then obviously, I think 5 of the 6 girls that regularly play in the women's lineup are internationals as well. So how do you, from a cohesive aspect, deal with so many different personalities and cultures kind of intertwining on your team?
Before I started coaching, I did not have any gray hair. And so obviously this is a sign of, no, I'm kidding. One thing that's actually helped is my master's degree is in intercultural studies.
Okay.
And so being able to celebrate everybody's individual culture, and we do some fun things in the past. We've had people over at the house. We let them cook an international dish for their team. And so everybody comes together, and a couple of years ago we had an Indian meal. We've had a little bit of everything, and so sometimes we'll go out to restaurants that will and have an ethnic flair to them, and so the kids get to taste around the country. I think one of the proud moments I have is every year. To see the kids come together. We had a girl, Jenny Metzi, get married over the summer and in Bucharest, but there were 14 Coker alums that went to that wedding.
Wow.
And 2 of them stood up in the wedding, and then we went down and we had a set of twins, and Bailey's banner is up in our gym right now, and so Bailey was just back here visiting us. But at her wedding, there were 4 of the girls from the team were on that. Last Christmas, I had one of the boys from Scotland, Mark Watt, who played 1 for us. He hosted 3 of the other guys, and from Sweden, Germany, and England all came over to Scotland, and so. And they called me from a pub. They were arguing who was actually the best number 1 player that we had. And so
that's really cool.
It's those kind of things. And I think we create lifetime friends. And almost every summer, somebody goes and visits somebody else from a different country, so they get exposed for a couple of weeks. And so those are fun times.
Yeah, so I guess going off of that a little bit, with being an international, it's kind of hard to just go home for a spring break, go home for a winter break, and whatever it may be. And with the challenges of maybe a student visa as well, they're not able to see their families nearly as much as they would like. So how challenging is it dealing with, I guess, that mental aspect of things as well?
Sure. One of the things that's fun, most of the Americans, and then even friends or roommates, will take the international home for some of the short holidays. The internationals get a kick out of Thanksgiving, and it seems to them their take on Thanksgiving is it's a celebration around food. That's what they get out of Thanksgiving, and lots of food, and then maybe some football. But in the teammates will actually take them home, and then oftentimes it's their other friends will give them the American experience of those things.
Okay, yeah, that's really cool to be able to see that. It's such a unique aspect. I know the men's soccer team is also a little bit like that, and there's other sports, but specifically tennis is so dominated on the international side of things. So it's really cool to be able to see all those different cultures come together and really mesh on one team with so many different people. So I mentioned a little bit of the mental aspect of things, like dealing with the being away from home. Tennis is a really mental sport. It's one of if not the most mentally challenging, being on one court by yourself for multiple hours where, your teammates are kind of shouting back and forth to you. But in a regular sport, you've got a crowd that's just watching one event and they're supporting you, and you've got teammates on your bench that are supporting you. But, when the men's team has a total of how many people? 9, right? Mm-hmm. So, if you have 3 people that aren't playing, not all 3 people can be watching every single match at the same time. So how do you, as a coach, help them deal with the mental side of tennis when it's such a prevalent thing in the sport?
Right. Seeing that, I think 2 things that I've done that have helped. One, I've become a certified high-performance mental coach and trained in that. So we meet on a weekly basis and dealing with the mental side of things. At the same time, I'm also been certified with John Maxwell's international certification for being a personal coach. And so, and with that, with those 2 things together, I think one is more counseling and life coaching, and then the other is an athletic mental coaching. One fun thing that we talk about and often is their BFS, their body language, their focus, and their self-talk. If you can conquer those 3 things, or at least have some guidelines on how to keep you in line with your BFS, and that is incredible. And in their game, we use the acronym WIN. What's important now? Too often, one of the ways that I chart matches is called flow charting, and you use graph paper and you go up and down with who wins what point. You go up or down on the graph paper. Too often, a bad call or a missed easy shot will carry you over to 1 or 2 extra points, and sometimes it will even a bad call from a referee that you don't agree with, and I just saw last week, and it was still something that was bothering a player, and 5 games later, and it was still in the back of his mind rather than letting go of it. I heard a good quote from Eli Manning once. They asked him what makes a good quarterback, and he said a short memory, and that's really what you have to do. You have to let go of the past.
Yeah, I know myself, playing on the collegiate scene, I had a large issue with letting things go. I'll be the first person to admit that it was really tough for me to, if I start performing bad, it really eats at me. So, and you see a lot. I just got done watching the 2nd season of the show Breakpoint on Netflix that covers all of a wide variety of professional tennis players, and a lot of the biggest issue that is prevalent with them is the mental aspect of it. It's how challenging is it to play, in Grand Slams, they play a best of 5 sets. So they're out there for a really, really, really long time. How challenging is it to mentally and physically deal with that, along with the things that may come along, like a missed referee call, or at this level, it's obviously it's different there because they have the real time checking of the lines and stuff like that. But at this level, it's not like that. So any missed call or something that may even be a right call, but from the other side of the court, you're thinking, oh, that's in for sure, and then that really eats at you, and it digs and it digs and it digs. So it's so hard to deal with something like that, and I've seen it really, really eat away at some players, and some players are much better than others at dealing with that. So cycling that into it, it's really hard when you are recruiting a large amount of international to not be able to go in person and watch these players. You don't, most of the time, the first time you really meet the players when they arrive on campus for the first time. So just talk a little bit about the how challenging that is on a recruitment portion.
Yeah, that's oftentimes on their videos that they send, and it's been edited, and so you see their best points. You don't see all their points. So I prefer match a match play video, and so that you can actually see them miss a shot and then what's their body language like. You're talking about how a call can affect in Sinner, who's the hottest player on the Pro Tour right now. They missed a call, and it cost him the game. And he then attributed his cramping to the tension that he put into his body and the emotions and from the missed call to the next 2 games, he went into cramping and then lost. Medvedev at the same Monte Carlo tournament and back-to-back days had calls go against him that the video camera actually showed that he was right, that the ball was 3 inches out. The lines, but they were not using the video cameras. They were doing just the live linesman, and the linesman saw a mark just inside the line on clay. So the linesman saw a mark, but it was not in the right spot, and it was actually, when you look at the 2 marks together, it was probably 6 inches off from the other mark.
Wow.
And then college tennis, most people don't realize we only have 2 referees for 6 to 8 courts.
Yeah.
So they are roving referees. Can you imagine college basketball being played and without referees and letting the players call their own fouls, or baseball and let the pitcher call them, or let the batter call if it's balls or strike? And no other sports does that, but it would be cost prohibitive to actually have a linesman on every court and then on every line. And so it comes down to a cost factor, and to have in tennis 100 years ago, 50 years ago, was called a gentleman's sport. So everybody was above board, called lines, did those kind of things, and it was kind of a sport of honor. I think golf somewhat is played that same way. But it's one of those. Some people sometimes call from their heart, not their eyes.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
If they need that point, nothing worse than an opportunistic and cheater. And that's the one that just, you might be having a great match, but then all of a sudden it comes down, we're playing no ad anymore. So at 40-40, the next point wins the game. All of a sudden, an iffy call goes against you, and it's a game for that guy when it could have been a game for you. And those kind of things are tough, but control what you can control. And even if you think that guy made a bad call, by the time you get the ref over there, the ref didn't see it, and so the call is going to stay. So all that energy that you just put forth in arguing a call that's not going to get overturned is just wasted energy, and the players have to just realize that and go forward.
So I play lacrosse, and I played lacrosse my whole life, so I'm not too familiar with how tennis, like how we prepare for games is probably different from how you prepare for matches. So I just wanted to get your take on like how you guys prepare for a match compared to like a basketball or something like that.
And we talk about that in the mental training, and we talked about your routines. Your routines should really start the night before, and to make sure that you get your sleep, make sure that you've eaten what you should, and not go out to greasy hamburgers and fries, And tennis, our matches actually, as a team, can last 7 hours. Because the courts have to turn over 3 times. Yeah. We start with men's and women's doubles, then we have 3 men's and 3 women's singles, and then 3 men's and 3 women's doubles, or singles again. And so, and if anybody goes 3 sets in their singles, you're looking at a 3-hour match and a 3-set match. So your nutrition is important. We then talked about your pre-game routine. And Rafael Nadal in his book talks about his routine. He takes a 15-minute ice-cold shower and to shock his body. And then when he gets out of the shower, each piece of clothing that goes on to the headband that goes on, when the headband goes on, he becomes a warrior in his mind. Then when the shoes are on, and he runs sprints inside the locker room and almost knocked over in another player in a famous incident in tennis. But and then to the point, your routines are the only thing that you can control in a match. because at the end of every point, Nadal's notorious with his, and he tugs on his hair, he messes with his ears, he picks his butt, and it's all these things, but it's his same routine every point, because that gets him back to a central point, and gets his mind back to the point. Some people go back and walk back to the fence, and they'll touch the fence, or that will ground them. Yeah. We talk a lot about breathing, and because tennis, and they actually say it is the first or second, I think wrestling, tennis, swimming may be the three most strenuous, but most of those don't last in 4 hours. Yeah. A lot of sprints. You've got to be able to recover in 30 seconds for the next point, and that's not just physically, but it's also mentally. And so, learning your routines is very, very important. And I think that's pretty true for any sport. Yeah. They'll differ, but a routine is one thing you can control.
And one thing I really wanted to ask you. Me and Dave were talking about it, how he talks about tennis and all that. So it's mainly it's kind of like an individual sport, but it's also a team sport. So how do you, if someone drops a set, like an important set or something like that, how do you coach your team through that, having him not get down on themselves or herself, even though
Yep. That's a tough one. It's so we'll just talk the terminology. Tennis, it takes 3 sets, and it takes 2 sets, 2 out of 3 to win a match. So if you lose the first set, and one of the things I remind them when they walked out on the court, how many sets did you need to win? They say 2. I said, okay, go win 2 sets. Yeah. And that was just warm up. You know how that guy plays. Yeah. And quit the Einstein thing, and quit doing the same thing, expecting different results. Let's find a new plan. And so if that guy's out grinding you at the baseline, bring him to the net. Change the arc of the ball. One of the things that we saw with our number 1 girl player, and Jade hits a nice hard flat ball. And I said, the way the people are going to play you is they're going to make you take balls out of your strike zone. So she was in her private lessons, she learned how to hit a slice. And so a slice, you use that on a low ball, and you can also use that on a high ball. And so, she owned it before the end of the fall, and by the spring, and she did a great job with it, and I think she's 9-3 in the conference. So it's one of those, learning to let go of the past and then be able to go on with the future. And sometimes when we play, if they lose a match, but then the team is still there, even though you have lost your match, you can have a value to the team by cheering on your teammate and getting them pumped up. Great one. Just 2 matches ago for us, we played Newberry, and we jumped out. We won all 3 doubles, so we get the doubles point. We win court 3 and court 5 singles, and so we're up 3-0, but we're at Newberry. Newberry wins a close number 1 and 7-6, and a tiebreaker in the second set to win court 1. They win court 2 and court 4. The momentum has totally changed. They win the first set on court 6, and the whole match is coming down to our number 6 man, and we're down a set, down a service break, and our guy changed it. And our kids on the sideline, even the ones that had lost their singles, cheering him on. And Carlos ended up winning 7-5, 7-5 to win the team match, and that secured us going to the conference.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the guys went running out onto the court, awesome. Picked them up, and it's one of those. Even if you lose your individual match, you can have a value in turning it around for the team.
Yeah, because I see a lot of scores 4-3. Yeah. So I was just curious on how those guys take it. They're that match deciding loss, and how they rebound from that.
That's a tough one. And the ladies had 6 4-3 matches, and they won 2, lost 4. And if we would have won one of those, the girls would have gone to conference. And so. It's still sore with me. I can recall a couple of those, but it's one of those. And to know that you've left it all out there, I think that's as a coach, one of my motivational T-shirts that we wear is effort and execution. Give me 100%, and I'll help you with your technique, and I just need you to execute that technique. And once I know that you've given it your all, and we have a saying, everything matters, and it's how you prepare before the match, how you enter into the match. Are you making little adjustments and going with it? And so those things all matter.
Yeah, so following up on a previous conversation, the recruiting world of things right now is slowly transitioning to the need to utilize the transfer portal. Although I've had a lot of conversations with multiple different people, although we may not like it, it's here, and if you don't utilize it correctly, then you're going to it's a sink or swim kind of area. So I just wanted to pick your brain about it a little bit, because I know that on your women's team, 3 of your top 4 girls were brought in this year out of the transfer portal. So how have you utilized that in a good manner to further your team along?
You're exactly right, and it's made a major change and on our women's team, because I did bring in 3. Absolutely hate the portal. It's one of those things where it's hard to bring forth a continuity and build. In years past and repeatedly, my number 5 player has grown into my number 1 player in over 2 to 3 years. And so just a couple of years ago, Justice Laban and Charlotte Clark both came in at number 5s and worked their way up to number 1s. Charlotte for 2 years and Eustace for 1. It's one of those where you can grow a team, but if there's no loyalty, and if it's not paradise, and put up a parking lot, and if it's not exactly where you think you should be playing, they're going to switch schools. So that kind of thing is difficult on the team format. But like what you said, it's here, and as long as it's here, and use what's available to you to be successful. And so I went out and got 3. So I'm working on a couple 4 players right now, let alone a bunch of others that are straight freshmen. But it's one of those. I guess it's a necessary evil since it's now there, and you're also dealing with a player that's not satisfied with where he's at. And so you have to, are they coming in with a negative aspect, or are they trying to better themselves? And so I would like the player that wants to better themselves. And I'll use Jade as an example. She was number 7 singles player at her previous college and played number 2 doubles, and now she's playing number 1 for me. And and she's playing still within the same division. And so I took somebody that wanted to better themselves, and she did better herself and did improve her game, and it's been successful at a high level.
Yeah, I think what everybody thinks is that the portal is it's basically like free agency now, but what it was made for originally was to get players to a better environment than what they were in. So I mean that's been great to hear the story of Jade and how she wasn't satisfied where she was before, and how Coker became a home. So I also wanted to touch on a lot of people come to Coker and they instantly fall in love with the people here. So what do you guys do to bring all those people in with all the transfer portal? How nobody really knows each other. Rather than you build up you have your freshmen that come in and become seniors, her all tight knit. So how do you create a sense of family within your team?
Well, you use the word family. In tennis, before we start our match, everybody huddles up and we do a circle and arms around one another, and they sway back and forth and they do a little chant. Yeah. I always let them do their own. The last 3 years now, their last word is family. Yep. And so that's how they see themselves. We do a variety of things to try to bring forth that as part of our culture, and I love taking them to what's it called now? where you go. There's one over in Florida that I take them to, where you locked into a room.
Oh, these escape rooms.
Yeah.
Escape rooms are fantastic because I divide the teams up and put them in 2 different rooms. I go back with the manager and I take notes watching all the videos and to see how well they interact with one another. And that's a fun thing. And then we go to have pizza. And about 6 years ago, I had a group of 2 international guys in one room. That it's the only year that we didn't, that the zombies ate them. Okay, I lost the whole team because they didn't get out of the escape room. But what happened was those 2 guys did not want to listen to anything that the women had to say. So the women sat down and quit. And so we're eating pizza, and the guys didn't even realize it. And said, "You so dissed these ladies," and the ladies had great ideas, and it was a great cultural awareness because their culture, they did not respect women, and they realized that they had carried their parents and attitudes and with them, and that was probably one of the best healing times when they apologized. And then they were aware of it for the rest of the year, and they probably went overboard trying to include them, but it was one of those things. But that was the only time, and I tell that story to everybody ahead of time, and so they work together. We do Christmas parties and do a Secret Santa. Guys just rip each other. So this year, I don't know if you saw it, but they decided to give each other secretly. They drew names, but they decided to give each other a phone case. And the rule was you had to carry the phone in that phone case for 1 whole month. So the month of February on campus, you saw guys with a raccoon phone case, with a raccoon tail. One had a pink bunny rabbit with bunny rabbit ears. One guy had a frying pan and cast iron frying pan with an egg on the backside. So whenever he was holding it, it looked like he was holding a frying pan with a fried egg. And all of these things are like 12 inches, 16 inches long. Yeah. And so they don't fit in pockets. So he had to carry them out in front of everybody.
Oh, that's funny.
But it really brought the team together because everybody had a good laugh. A lot of people on campus saw them doing it, and if you took your phone out of the case and somebody from the team saw you, you had to do the Coker Mile, which is starting from the tennis club and tennis courts, run downtown all the way down past the president's house, coming back around, and so it's about 1.5 miles. And so one guy got caught 3 times on one day without his phone, so he had to do 3 of those. He had it, and it's
sounds like fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Girls are much more they're sweet to one another, so they got themselves a nice presents that they all would use. But we do some cookouts. During the alumni weekend, I do a cookout. We do mixed doubles. The guys from the team play with women from previous teams, vice versa, and just trying to create that kind of culture of a team, of a family. Yeah. And we do travel. We're a unique sport. We travel with both the men and women at the same time.
How many do that?
I don't even think golf travels in the same bus with each other.
It's almost like it's like a totally different dynamic from like when I'm used to, at least, for just having men on my team to having men and women. You gotta almost like, it's just, you gotta be different and be more acceptive and just talk through things.
Learn so many more different personalities.
Yes, absolutely.
And really learn the differences, because a lot of those people didn't grow up with siblings, or specifically siblings of the different gender. So it's very interesting to see the dynamic, because I was the same way when I was in college. The teams traveled together. We did not really have, I think we had maybe 1 or 2 separate matches all year, and that was because one team may have a women's team and not a men's team, and then the other way around. And even when we did that, the men. So an example that I had, Carlo up in Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh area had just a women's team and not a men's team. They were in our conference. And even when the women went up and played them, the men were encouraged and offered a spot in the vans to go and support them. The year that I was there, that they went and played them up there, I went in the van and I went and watched, and it was nice because, although I'm from Ohio, I'm in that Northeast Ohio area, which is about an hour and a half from Pittsburgh. So my mom actually came over and sat with me and during the match, and we went out to lunch and stuff like that. So it was, it's good to see the support from both the men's and the women's teams as they support each other, even in those times where they may not be playing. But I think that kind of wraps up what we had for you today.
Excellent.
And so we really appreciate you coming on here and answering our battering questions.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much. This has been good.
Thank you.
Go Cobra.
All right, it's that time of the week where we look into next week. Looking in the next week in Coker Youth University Athletics, we have a full slate of games. Starting off with baseball, take on USC Aiken tonight, which is they are recording Tuesday at 6 p.m. And then this weekend, they'll take on Catawba in a 3-game series at Tom J. New Field starting at Friday at 6 p.m. And then Saturday, they play games at 1 and 4. And then men's lacrosse will take on number 8 Wingate on Wednesday, April 17th, as it is Senior Day. So the Senior Day festivities will be starting at 3:45. We are honoring Jake Brundage and Ethan Hofer. Thanks in advance for the guy and everything you've done for the program. And then we're going to jump out to the links with women's golf.
Yeah, women's golf. All going to go ahead. They're going to have their SAC tournament as well. That's happening today. That's going to be wrapping up right around this time. They should be hitting off in the tee box in just a little bit. And next, actually on Saturday as well, men's golf is going to start their SAC tournament this weekend. That's going to go till Monday. And then heading back out to the Diamond and everything. Coker going to go ahead. Softball also going to have their senior day on Saturday. Baseball as well, also having their senior day Saturday as well. So handful of senior day a week. It's the last week of, in a sense, regular season play at home for the Cobras. Again, postseason, we'll let you guys know on that. Make sure you keep checking on cokercobras.com for that. But nonetheless, tomorrow they're going to be facing USC Buford in the last away match and the last non-conference match of the season for them on Wednesday, starting at 2 p.m. That's going to be game 2. And then same thing with softball. They're also going to have their doubleheader on Saturday for senior day against Catawba at home at Salibi Stokes Field. So going to be fun. And then, David, huge week for tennis. As you alluded to it a little bit earlier, so.
Yeah, so mentioned previously the game against Newberry that went 4-3 on the decider is what clinched them the 8 seed in the SAC quarterfinals. So they will be taking on the 1 seed in Wingate in opening round action of the SAC quarterfinals in Sumter on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. So that's a big game for them. They already played them in the season, so they're looking to get back to a familiar opponent and cause an upset, which would be great for them. And then out to the track, the men's and women's track and field have a huge open on Saturday, traveling over to the University of South Carolina, and it's their last meet before the SAC championships.
All right, and that's all we have for you guys this week. Thank you for tuning in or watching online on the Cobra Corner. We hope you enjoy the show. Can't wait to see you supporting Coker Athletics in the stands or online. We have a lot of senior nights this week, so be sure to get out and honor those Coker seniors. Your passion and support really does make a difference for our team. Keep cheering, be loud, and let's go Cobras. See you guys next week.